Welcome back. You're watching 101. We're speaking with award-winning philanthropist Diego Hidalgo. A lot of your work was done at the World Bank, and that was the time you mentioned earlier on that you went into philanthropy. Now, you were the youngest head of division at the World Bank, and actually the first Spaniard to be a head of division as well. Now, I wonder at that time, what did you feel you were able to achieve while working at an organization at like the World Bank? Was it too bureaucratic, or did you have the freedoms to do what you needed to?
I extraordinarily had the freedom to act. First, because I was told that the only bottleneck that you have in your work is fear. So I didn't have any fear. I was fortunate that the World Bank had been very bureaucratized in 1971, and there were 6 regions. But I was in charge of all the industrial development and finance in Africa. And there were 2 regions in Africa, West Africa and East Africa, but there was not enough work when I started to divide the division into 2. So I was like a guerrilla. I reported directly to the president, to McNamara. The only time that I went to give a report to McNamara, he fell asleep. So I really had a lot of freedom, and I gave a lot of freedom to the people who worked for me in the division. So as a result, we were able to escape the bureaucracy. It was a very, very good experience.
And that was a remarkable achievement, you know, being that young head of the World Bank division. But what do you see as your defining moments?
I think that the promotion to youngest division chief was one defining moment. I think that coming out of El País, and I would say that in my professional life, of course, the births of my children have been extremely important. But I think that carrying a megalomaniac project through, which was to bring about the Conference on Democratic Transition and Consolidation in 2001, even after September 11, when everybody advised me to cancel it because nobody would come to Madrid. I was able to carry it through. I got the support from President Clinton and from President Cardoso of Brazil, who told me now democratic transition and consolidation after September 11 are the most is the most important issue in the world, because there are going to be many temptations to roll democracy back. So getting 35 heads of state and former heads of state after the best experts to Madrid was a defining moment. There was another one which was in 2005. I was very surprised that President Bush had never convened a summit on terrorism, on how to confront terrorism and how to analyze it and avoid it. And so I was able to, with the help of the Club of Madrid, to organize a big summit in Spain that came up with very practical recommendations. I think that those were the main moments.
Now, you mentioned El País in that. I gather you're one of the founding members in the sense that you were one of the first investors in it. And you did that as a favor to a friend.
Exactly, yes. He was having trouble raising money. And he contacted me and said, look, we need a center-left media that will facilitate the transition from dictatorship to democracy in Spain. And I thought, well, I will never see the money back, but here it is.
Yeah, and of course, it was one of the ones that Harvard Business School wouldn't have recommended, yes?
Exactly, but which just by accident, one chance in a billion, turned out to be extremely profitable. And Prisa is now one of the main media companies in the world.
Right, and of course, El País is one of the most, it is the most widely circulated paper in Spain as well.
It is, indeed.
At that time you were setting it up, or at least involved in the sort of helping set it up. That Spain was going through its transition. You were in America, I gather, at the time when the biggest changes were taking place. Is that right? I was
I was ending my tenure at the World Bank and going into freedom, but I was going through Spain reasonably often.
How easy was that transition? How did it work out?
It worked out extremely well. I think that it was the people who took part in it, and the first actors were conscious that it was the first time in the history of the world that the dictatorship committed suicide, in a sense, that it transitioned itself without any revolution or any violence whatsoever to a democracy. To the credit of a few people who sacrificed their short-term interest into to get this long-term ideal of getting a democracy, joining Europe, and so on. A lot of credit goes to King Juan Carlos and to the prime minister that he chose, and to a few people, selected people.
You've communicated a lot through your books. You have a number of best-selling books. You mentioned the one, The Future of Spain, which Mikhail Gorbachev read, or at least was aware of, which got you involved. How much are you able to get that across? How much are you focused on the writing as well nowadays?
Well, I'm trying right now. You know, I'm just over 65, so I think that I will devote a great deal of time. I have written with my son a manifesto before the Spanish elections, which got a lot of publicity, exhorting Spaniards to work together and to have a dialogue to solve the main issues that concern Spain. And of course, I'm looking forward to writing my memoirs, and also a new version of the future of Spain and the future of the world, because I think that we lived in a very in a delusion in the 90s, and now we are coming to the crude realities of the dangers in the horizon in the 2000s.
You listened to your father and avoided politics, but was there ever an urge to get involved?
There was a friend of mine who tempted me in 1981, and just for a romantic thought about my father running in Extremadura, in the poorest region in Spain, I sort of dreamed myself that I would, you know, run through the villages and carry my message through. But I think that the enthusiasm after getting the proposition lasted for 1 hour or so, and then, you know, I gave up. I'm very glad that I think that I can have a much better impact with the sort of global activities and trying to change the world, or at least to influence a change for the better from top down right now.
Of the work you do, what is it you love the most about it? What's it you hate most about it?
Well, you know, there is a difference between the gross and the net time that you devote to something, and I really don't like things that make me travel too much. And the travel has become, it's not a pleasure as it used to be for obvious reasons. I enjoyed very much traveling in the 70s, even in the World Bank missions were idyllic, and they are not now. But I love to meet people. I love to see results. I love to see impact of the foundations that I have created or helped create. I'm setting up one very important one called Concordia 21, which gathers philanthropists from different generations from all over the world in trying to get the best projects out. And you know, this education for employment that you have referred to is a great, I think, a potentially great project in the Middle East, and you know, worthy of support.
Anything you'd have done differently? You could have turned back the clock.
Yes, many. I think that you are much more efficient. One of the things that I'm very proud of, because it's about the only teaching that I have absorbed of life, is that I travel with a very small briefcase. That's one symbol for saying that you know, the leaner the organizations that you create are, the more efficient. So you know, Frida got to have 300 people. And you have to avoid creating bureaucracies, and you have to. There are many things that I regret. You know, I'm very humble when I look at my past life, and I would have done many things differently.
What sort of legacy would you like to leave? How would you like to be remembered?
As somebody who tried to leave a better world behind, as a good father and grandfather, but also. I am not limiting I'm not thinking only on my children and grandchildren, but to all the children in the world. It's a shame. I mean, we have been talking now for maybe half an hour. 6,000 children have died in the world during the time that you and I have been talking. And this is a very, very sobering thought. I would like to be remembered as having contributed to ending that, for instance.
Diego Hidalgo, I wish you a lot of luck with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.